Hello, Paul Matalucci here again, Central Gorge Master Gardener. I'm very happy here to chat with you about up-potting, which is what you do after your seeds have germinated and after they develop what's called the first true leaves. Those are the leaves after the first two that open. And once that has happened, your seedlings are ready to begin and be ready for up-potting. I want to talk about a few things. We'll talk about, first off, keeping your hands sterile again. Unlike seeds or seed starting, the sterile hands are not as important when you're up-potting as they are with seed starting, but it's still a good practice to be in. I've actually been playing in the soil, as you can tell, so my hands are now dirty. But I would take basically Clorox or some other towel and give my hands a good sterile wipe to make sure that I don't have any plant viruses or bacteria on my hand that might harm the seedling. Once I've done that, I want to take the 3.5-inch pots that we'll be using, and I'm going to put just a little bit of soil in the bottom and put these off to the side. I might just do one at a time. Let me then show you what the seedlings are. These come in the cell packs that we talked about, the 6 cells. You want to turn them over and very gently squeeze the base like this. And what you'll see happen is the seed basically falls out. Well, that one didn't have a seedling in it. We'll do this one. The seedling will fall out into your hand. Now, in this case, these roots are actually very small. Sometimes you'll notice the roots kind of wind around the bottom and get a little bit compacted. So what I like to do is just kind of gently with my finger break up that root ball as a way of making sure that those roots are going to be facing outward. You then take your pot that has 1 inch of soil in the bottom, and you put the seedling in it. Now notice how these are fragile. These are very, a little bit leggy, probably because they're a few days beyond when they should have been up-potted, but I want to show you that that's not the end of the world. What you want to do is very gently hold them vertical and then fill the soil in around the sides. And now here's the important step. I don't want to push down hard on those very tender young roots. So what I'm going to do instead is push with my finger around the perimeter, and essentially what I'm doing is I'm tucking in the soil around the root as opposed to pushing down on it. As you can tell, because these are a little bit long and leggy, I'm also aware that they are more fragile, more likely to snap, and so I'll probably do one extra thing, which is put soil around the base and then very gently kind of squeeze and pinch on the sides. So if you can look at that, I've added soil to the top. Can you see that? I've added soil right up to the neck of the plant, and that only needs to be there for a day or two, because that is a day or two that the plant can strengthen itself and anchor itself with its own roots. And then once it's done that, the soil can erode down to the side and won't be necessary. But it's a nice way of giving the plant just a little bit more extra support for those first few days. The other thing is, if I'm pushing the soil around the base, it's helpful for the people who will be coming to water these plants every day if there's a little bit of a lip underneath so they can water the plants and the water will collect in these. So kind of what I'm showing you here is kind of ideal, where you have a good amount of soil, but you've also got just a little bit below the edge so that that water collects. And then we put them into these trays. And these holding trays are kind of amazing. What they do is they hold your 3.5-inch pots, but they basically allow us to fill this base tray with water and water the plants from the bottom. And that's a wonderful thing because essentially we don't run the risk that our spraying is going to knock the plants over or do any additional damage. It just puts the water right where we need it. It also is really convenient for the people watering. Sure thing. Okay, good. And one more thing I want to mention about this is that if you do decide that you want to hydrate this one time before you're finished, again, be very careful about using a spray too close to the plant because these are still very delicate. So if I'm going to water this, I'm going to water it like from a distance. And what you notice is kind of fascinating. As the water lands on the leaves naturally funnel those droplets right down to the roots where it needs it. So you don't actually have to shoot the wand directly into the soil. You just kind of give it a light misting above, and that's enough to get the water where it needs to be. The other thing I want to show you is many times 2 or more seeds have been dropped into a cell by accident, and when that happens, again, it's not the end of the world. What you will do is, as before, pinch the bottom to drop the seedlings into your hand. But here's the part that's tricky. Now, if I were to just grab these two and start pulling them apart, there's a high probability that I will snap either the stem or the roots. So the way you prevent that is by very gently giving it a caress and a rub in between your hands. And can you see what happened right there? The root ball basically disintegrated. And now, when I start to tease these apart, there's a much higher probability that I can separate two plants with two intact root systems, and they'll be ready to get started. So that's one way. And let's just, again, since I have this in my hand, I'm going to show you. Put 1 inch of soil in the bottom, put your single seedling in there, hold it, fill in from the sides, and then push down around the perimeter. And then in this case, I'm going to give this a little tap so that I'm making that vertical, and that's one that's done. It's not the end of the world if you do decide that you have two seeds that have germinated in one cell and you want to put both of those into a 3.5 inch pot. What happens is at some point one of the two will be dominant, and that one will be the one that we keep, and the other one will pull, and that will become compost. So that's not the end of the world if you have a seedling with 2 or 3 seedlings per cell, and you want to put those into a pot together. One other thing I can mention, this is not true of all plants, but for certain plants, these are peas, for example, and this works very well with vining plants. If they are long and leggy like this, you can also pinch the top when you do your up-potting, and this gives it a little bit more rigor and allows you to basically, one more? Okay, so let me show you another one. This is a nice long one. It's great to pinch the top, and that gives you a little bit more structure here. This thing is no longer top heavy, and when it sits in your tray, it's going to be able to grow vertically and get strong. Let me show you. Yeah, let me show you. That's about the amount that I pinched off. I think what's interesting is it's more about how much do you leave behind rather than what you pinch. So I'd say in this case, what I'm looking for on these peas is I want a few of the branches, because that's obviously where the next sprouts are going to come. So I say look for like the 3rd or 4th branch and pinch right at that point, and that way you'll have a nice healthy plant come out of that. I can't think of anything else. I want to say thank you very much for this chance to share with you how to up-pot, and good luck with your up-potting. Thank you.